This is Morning Live, and we get straight into our next interview as we get to talk all things climate action for 2025. And we're now joined in studio by Mr. Akufuna Muyunda, who is a climate leader and the founder of Young Volunteers for Environment Zambia. Good morning and welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning and happy Green Day.
Yeah, happy Green Day. I love that.
Yeah, happy Green Day. With Cyclone Dikeledi in the corner.
Wow.
We
Cyclone Chido all over the place. Yeah, we have a lot to fight, and I think it also provides an opportunity for us to change the way we do what we do.
Yeah.
Most importantly, to be able to build up the resilience that is required for our country, for our region, for our continent, for the globe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now let's get started with the Climate Change and Green Economy Act that was passed on 26th December 2024. How important is it? Yeah,
I think it's a very important, I can call it an achievement for our country. First time we have now we have a law. We have done quite a number of advocacy around climate action. Of course, a number of projects in the space of climate change, but most of those were policy informed and never backed by law. So that's a great achievement for our country to have a very specific green economy and climate change act to also complement of course the famous environmental protection act that we have. So what that means also is that we are now mandated to actually ensure accountability and also responsibility, and also to ensure that the enforcement of the standards that we want to promote for our country are actually done across all functions. So it's a good achievement in the right direction. We look forward to what we can do now using the act itself.
How do you think the climate change will shape Zambia's development agenda for 2025?
Yeah, I think quite a number of achievements last year. I can give ourselves a 6 out of 10. First of all, being cognizant the fact that we were hit by El Nino-driven drought. And I think for information, in 2023, the young people under Young Volunteers for the Environment gathered in what we call the Climate Emergency March Past, where we called on the President to declare climate emergency for our country. And also we called on the President to facilitate allocation part of the CDF to support climate adaptation projects in our local communities. And part of our call also was for him to create a dedicated climate action task force. So we had 3 calls that were made. And good enough for 2024, we saw the President declared in a drought as a national emergency. But also in April, we saw the revision of the CDF Act, which now provided for allocation for climate adaptation projects. But also looking forward to 2025, I had an opportunity to share with a few members of parliament who gave me some statistics that a number of constituencies still have not actually utilized the opportunity within the climate adaptation fund that was provided for. They recorded 0 applications. But that's not a bad thing. It also provides an opportunity for us to go a step further and provide for capacity building, awareness raising on what is a climate adaptation project. Then we help our communities in these constituencies to be able to take advantage of such a fund to build their own local resilience against climate change. Also for 2025, building up from 2024, we saw private sector participation also increase heavily. And I think we need to recognize that, because that's one area that really has been lagging behind for some time. Good political will from government in terms of policy direction and of course inspiration, demonstrated by the Republican President himself, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. But also we have seen quite a number of achievements also in the green growth strategy that was established end of last year. Those are guiding documents that also complement the act that has been established now. We also saw Copper Belt Energy Corporation, Renewables, which is a subsidiary of Copper Belt Energy, for the first time in Zambia, green bond financing. Yeah. It has never happened.
We've had a lot of good pieces of documents, the National Adaptation Plan as an example, but to what extent have they had impact in really addressing to most of the things that the country is experiencing? Yeah, especially the drought?
Yeah, absolutely. I can say the impact is not very immediate, but I think it's good enough. At least we have some guiding documentations. I think for Zambia, we are doing very well in that regard. I think so far we have what I can say quite enough documentation to ensure meaningful results from the actions that we are trying to take as a country. But I think we shouldn't get swamped into production of documents after documents after documents, because that doesn't get us anywhere. So that's why even with the new act, we want to see more action oriented in terms of ensuring compliance across all various sectors that inform the green economy for our country, environmental protection. We support human development that promotes ecological preservation. That's what we want to ensure as a country. And these have direct impact on the socio-economic welfare of our country itself.
Yeah.
So we don't want more documentations, we want documents versus action, and more action.
How much monitoring and evaluation do you think has been enforced? Especially with the enforcement of these pieces of documentation and also some of the pronouncements?
My personal opinion, not enough, and yes, a lot of effort being put in place, and that's why we need a more integrated approach to how we do what we do. Remember, even the Environmental Management Act of 2011 empowers all of us as citizens also to play a role in that. So we need to be able to hold players accountable that go beyond the provided guidelines in terms of environmental compliance. So, but that's not been enough, and I think we have not been proactive enough as a country, especially in environmental reporting, because we need to report these statistics. We need to report what is going wrong, and we need to be transparent about it. The other time we had a program in the LOSI section called the environment. We received calls also from what I can call cause of distress from some of the local communities in Western Province who have reported that the trees are finishing, and the so-called investors are cutting down trees, carelessly. And can you imagine? In some reports, we are told they buy a tree at 100 kwacha. This is over 100 years old tree, cut it down, pay 100 kwacha for it. That's a huge loss. But where are these reports? They're not reaching the intended targets, or maybe they're reaching the intended targets, but no action is being taken. So we need to be very deliberate and intentional as a country if we are to protect our country from the potential adverse effects of climate change itself.
Yeah.
So remember also that we are a country within the global perspective, and there are also many other conversations that should take place beyond the scope in terms of our positioning as a country. Yeah,
but isn't that where civil society comes in? Yes,
civil society comes in there. Again, looking back to 2024, I think as civil society we haven't done good enough. I would give good marks for private sector, good marks for government, but I think the voice in the civil society has been very, very lean. And I think primarily one of the challenges that we have in the civil society is the fragmentation that we have. Like, we have a lot of civil society organizations that want to work in silos, pushing the same agenda, but working in silos. So that won't take us very far, and that will also make our voice so low and not loud.
Okay. Earlier you spoke about we should have a lot of action. As we transition to a low-carbon economy, generally, how do you think we fared in terms of action?
Yeah, I think Zambia generally been a very reactive citizenry. We have seen, even with the drought that we experienced, a number of increased participation from private sector into the solar business, for example. So that reaction, what we can call the silver lining in that reaction is that we are seeing an accelerated transition towards renewable energy solutions, use and consumption of renewable energy solutions. But that is motivated by the reaction to the crisis that we experience itself, which is also a good thing somehow, because now the talk about solar is a well-known subject now, and everyone wants to participate in that. Also, even at individual levels, we have seen, I think, a number of participation from citizens themselves, because they're asking many questions. What is the solution? This crisis, it has come. Okay, when is it going? And how we are continually affected. People are losing jobs, and people are losing businesses. Babaman cannot operate 24/7, saloon, and all the SMEs in the picture. And these are citizens that are affected. At the end of the day, the GDP also is affected. But also, I think, to put it on record, when we started our advocacy, even as Young Volunteers for the Environment, the focus has been on communication of climate change as a crisis.
But how they say that the success of any project or policy depends on how heavily involved the community is.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree with you, and that's my call even for this year. we want to promote a more community-centered approach to fighting climate change. Talk about carbon credit, trading or business. Yes, it's a good thing. We saw a number of bilateral agreements being signed by our own Honorable Minister of Green Economy and Environment at the COP29, of course in Baku, Azerbaijan. That's a good thing, and the carbon market is increased by 14% so far globally. So there's a lot of opportunity there, but when we come back home, to what extent are our citizens participating in that? We need to see more participation from our citizens, our traditional leaders themselves, the custodian of a large hectarage of forest.
What is hindering the public from participating?
One, awareness and lack of technical expertise that is required, and also access to finance itself. We need resources to support this program. We need to be deliberate and intentional, which is also a good thing from the Act, where it provides for the creation of the Green Climate, a Green Economy and Climate Change Fund. So we hope that fund, since it will be established by the Act, the resources we're going to raise from that should be able to be directed to the citizens of our own country to benefit from that, so that we can build their own resilience in terms of their ability to respond to the shock that arises from the climate crisis, but also to be able to build up sustainable projects that are Zambian-led for Zambians, because it affects us at the end of the day. So we should be at the forefront. We should try as much as possible to avoid a situation where all these regulations that are put in place, bilateral that are put in place, end up benefiting non-Zambians at the end of the day, because then we are not doing anything for our country that serves the interests of our country. So we want to see more participation from the community. And how do they participate? By empowering them. The way we have done with the CDF, to ensure that they have access to climate adaptation projects, fund, then we can go back and build their capacity to be able to engage and participate in the implementation. Speaking
of community involvement, earlier you spoke about the role of civil society. You praised stakeholders like the private sector. What is the role of traditional leaders as well as cultural institutions in promoting climate resilience?
That's the most critical stakeholders that we have neglected for a long time. They have influence over our culture. They have influence over ourselves as a people. They have influence over the resources that we have in terms of biodiversity. We can't leave them behind. They have a role to influence their communities positively, and also to be able to encourage participation of their own communities. Last year, as Young Volunteers for Environment, we actually, as part of our climate emergency activities, we paid courtesy call on the House of Chiefs. And we communicated this message to say, we want your participation as traditional leaders in the climate change action for our country. And they are very much excited, because already they are thinking about how they can engage. And I can tell you that they started a program where they are going around the 10 provinces, bring together their subjects, bring together their people into a conversation about what can we do to address the issues that affect us in terms of climate change itself. So they have a role to play to mobilize their communities. They have a role to play also as advocates for climate finance that will be dedicated to their local community, so that there's participation also there, and they're empowered to do so.
It's a rain season. Farmers are busy. Last year we didn't do so well. How best can farmers adapt to climate change, especially in the face of all these different weather patterns that we're experiencing?
I think we have a chance that we keep having all the time. From the drought that we experienced last time, it was reported that we anticipate to experience La Nina, which is of course more floods, more rains. But from the lesson that we had from the drought that we experienced last year, there was a call by the president that we should promote winter maize production, for example, and also rain harvesting. When we have an opportunity now we have the opportunity to promote projects like rain harvesting. Let's support such kind of projects by making resources available to empower communities, to empower individuals, empower these farmers, so they can have the rain harvesting equipment right in their farms, so that they can be able to store these waters and use it throughout the year where possible to irrigate their production. But also we saw some lessons in terms of going back to productive use solar, such as solar-powered irrigation system, our farmers should be able to still take advantage of such kind of facilities and opportunities through the agriculture credit window and many, many initiatives that have been put in place by government and the private sector, so that we can transform how we produce our food, especially the smallholder farmers who actually contribute about 80% to the food basket for our country.
So you must be very busy in 2025.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy year for all of us, for every Zambian.
No, but I'm interested in what you will be doing.
Yeah, so for us,
as an organization,
this year we are starting with a capacity building workshop. We are training 50 what we call Zero Charcoal Ambassadors Leadership Program. So we want to create advocacy in communities that will go and talk about this message, engage the communities, communicate solutions, alternatives to charcoal, and that's what we want to do for the start of the year. And as we look into the future, we want to also advocate for more and increased participation and engagement of youth, because they've always been left out, and also women, because they've always been left out, and also persons with disabilities, because they've always been left out. All these are what we can call marginalized communities. In the face of climate change, it worsens their welfare, their livelihoods, but they should be able to be supported, promoted, encouraged. And one thing that I want to mention also in terms of youth participation is, it is always sad when we travel out and participate in these global conversations such as the COP. Look at Zambia, how many youth? 5 youth, 10 youth, 15 youth. But look at other countries, they even have as much as 100 youth. Number, of course, is also good for us, because that means when they come back to our country, they can be able to contribute even more immensely. But we want to see more locally funded, supported youth to go and participate in this global conversation from Zambia here, because we need to create a future that is more sustainable, and sustainability comes in our ability to invest in the young people today, so that we can secure the future of our country, build a more resilient Zambia for all. That will create more jobs, green businesses, of course, good economy, because that's what we want. We want to develop, but we want to also protect ourselves from the shock that may come from the climate crisis. We can't be responsible because we have an opportunity to be responsible.
Thank you so much for your time. We greatly appreciate